welcome all survivors of the first CentOS Connect days, and let's get a second day as good as the first one. So we'll go really smoothly this morning, so nothing too technical, so that we can take easy. I hope that you are all caffeinated enough and that you can recover from whatever you were doing yesterday. I don't want to know. So the first mandatory slide is who am I, for people not knowing me yet. I started to contribute to CentOS, I think 17 or 18 years ago. And yes, Sean was right. I was floor sweeper, but I was promoted to all these new title. I just added another one to the list, which is we are in 2025, so I have to use one AI word in the slides. Here we go. So apart from that, I'm touching a little bit of infra. I'm a sysadmin by choice, meaning I really appreciate and I love what I do. And if you're a sysadmin, you should be proud of yourself. So this is the agenda for today. It's just a small review of what we did as the infrastructure SIG for CentOS project and the special interest group. What is a small roadmap of what we will be doing in 2025, because of course we'll have new things coming up on our plate automatically, but what we are already aware of, and Q&A section eventually at the end. So just a small reminder first. The Infra SIG is a special interest group in CentOS because, in fact, well, we are needed everywhere. Whatever the SIGs you are contributing to, you still need to rely on infrastructure at one point or another, meaning that, and I was entering some meetups room yesterday, and I've always something to do for them. Yesterday in the OKD, the meetup, we discussed about new infra needs, and we'll work on that later this year. But the InfraSig is mainly there for two big things. Meaning that we have two hats that I have to wear at the same time. The biggest one at the moment is, of course, working on the CentOS Stream infrastructure, which I will not touch today because I will more discuss about the public thing that you are contributing and you are relying on. But CentOS Stream Infra is also something that the InfraSig needs to care about, even if that's semi-internal to Red Hat. But for you, for the people from the community, or contributing to one SIG or another, or just using the artifact built by the special interest group, well, we need to support the CBS Codeable system and everything after that. So we have our own CI infra that you can abuse for free. So what we call Duffy API services. If you are a member of a SIG, if you don't know what Duffy is, talk to me after, because it's a way to just get ephemeral machine from AWS sponsored directly for you for your test, and then even bare metal machine. We have also an OpenShift setup that we need to maintain for you in case you need a namespace in that OpenShift cluster, hosted for free. So ask for your namespace and your project there. We also need to take care of everything after the deliverable, so just the mirror network and the various CDN that we need to maintain for that. And well, the website, the mailing list, so all the classical things that you expect a project, an open source project to have these days. But let's go back first to some fundamentals and basics. I guess that a lot of people have seen multiple iterations of this, so I'm not saying that it's the official one, but you get the idea. In software lifecycle, there are multiple steps, but when you think about it, infrastructure is almost the same, because we need to support applications that will be deployed on top of an infrastructure. And in infrastructure, we have also to think the same way. First, infrastructure as code, but also design, do some kind of requirement gathering, implement new hardware, new solution, maintain, and eventually at one point, it's not shown here, but we need to exit the circle when we have to decommission a piece of infrastructure. So as a kind of, I like to call that the loopity-loopity-loop. That's a trademark thing that I just invented 5 years ago. These are more or less the steps. So we can use different words, but these are the idea, the principle behind. So quick survey from all these steps. So design, build, maintain, operate, and decommission. Which part do you think is the most important when you are talking about infrastructure? Which one? Quick survey. Which? Decommission, no, that's usually the easiest one. Maintain and operate, the third one. So that sounds like a little bit boring when you are working in infrastructure to maintain, because it's not where you see the new shiny things, but it's really mandatory, and usually it's overlooked and underrated, the maintenance part of a project, including for an open source infrastructure. Because if you do your job right there, people will not notice. But it's because you did a good job at maintaining what exists. And yes, there is a part where you need to design, implement new things, but just maintaining infrastructure is really, really needed. So this is a big part of what we do in infrastructure SIG these days in 2024. It's just the maintain part. So I had to put at least one slide with some charts. So here we go. This is coming from the CentOS Infra tracker, one of the various trackers that we are using, because I mentioned for CentOS Stream Infra, not covered by this talk, we have another internal to Red Hat issue tracker. But this is just for the public infra tracker for the special interest group. So the number of tickets we got over the last year and how it was worked on. So clearly, like a new SIGs is coming in, we need to onboard, create GPG key for them, maintain, operate, etc. So tags creation in CBS, so in Koji, everything else. So this is what we mostly did for the operation part of CBS. So one of the biggest change was the update to Koji 1.34. Nobody noticed, we just announced it, but nobody noticed, which is in fact good. That means that it was a smooth transition. The reason why we did that was to also start to switching to systemd and spawn for chroot isolation, and also be close to what is used internally to build CentOS Stream. So we are at the same level of Koji. All the builders were installed from EL8 to EL9. For one particular reason, people doing kernel builds and K-mods, they were hitting issue, and I know that Neil remember what I'm talking about, with the small HMAC issue that we were seeing from a chroot when using systemd and spawn, when you have the kernel running, the host running a kernel from EL8, not having the correct patch for that implementation, when it was a call to libck API, in fact. And so everything was upgraded. Again, nobody noticed because we just took machine out of the pool, reinstall completely, automation for the winner, put it back, and so on, and rinse and repeat, and that was done easily. So other thing that we did, you may have heard that CentOS Stream 10 was announced in December, but the early bits were available for early adopter back in June, I think. They were published to the mirror network already. And so the special interest group asked for these packages to be available in the build route in CBS so that they can start working directly on their packages for CentOS Stream 10. Reason why, when it was announced, in fact, plenty of special interest group had already their package built and tested, which was a great thing. So that's one of the things that we had to implement, including RPM auto-spec support. Very few special interest groups are using it, but it's supported for CentOS Stream 10 and Apple 10, of course, in CBS. Big thing that is, well, it's a summary of 2024, so people don't remember, but we announced beginning of 2024, we reinstall all the ARM64 builder with better, stronger, faster machine. Clearly, I think the build time for some packages, like big one, like Ceph, for example, which was taking forever to build, they were divided by 3 in time, so it was really good. And I would like to also thank Ampere Computing, because they sponsor one of these machines for you to use it as a builder, so that was good from them. The other thing that you may have heard of, and it was the end of CentOS Linux 7 legacy. And at the same time, CentOS Stream 8 was going end of life. It's the first time in the history of the project that we have 2 releases going end of life at almost the same time. CentOS Stream 8 was going end of life in May, and CentOS Linux 7 in June. So, well, guess what? We had plenty of infrastructure machine running both. So that I spent a lot of time just reinstalling and moving things around to Enterprise Linux 9. Other things we did was split the chassis, the hardware chassis that we had, that were used initially for an on-prem OpenShift cluster, that were just added back as Koji Builder in CBS, because OpenShift itself moved to AWS end of last year. CentOS Stream 10 onboarding was a thing. It's not that we had a lot to do. I did a lot of work on the infra just to build CentOS Stream, but after that, it was like onboarding for you CentOS Stream 10 artifact into the mirror network, but also in CBS, also in Duffy. So back in, I think it was at the same time in June, you could have requested already CentOS Stream 10 support in Duffy just to test your packages in advance. So that was also done. And same thing for debug info-d package. I don't know if we have developer in the room relying on debug info-d, which is like fetching the debug info package as a service directly from that instance. We add support directly from day one. The other things that, I would like to call that business as usual. So it's not fancy, but it's, yes, work that needs to be done. Various things, monitoring, backup, and of course, if we do that behind the scenes, nobody noticed, but we are doing still a lot of work to proactively monitor machine and react. That is tied to a relationship with sponsors. Since day one in the CentOS project, it would not have been possible to deliver or build anything without the help of sponsor. Before we even joined Red Hat being the biggest sponsor, of course, of the project these days, we still have plenty of sponsors. If you go to the website, CentOS.org/sponsor, you will see all the sponsors listed. And we had a bunch of machines that were still running on, let's say, machine donated in 2012, 2013, so clearly not matching any spec to run EL9 kernel anymore. So I did a lot of, opening tickets, sending mail to sponsors, and they reacted. 19 of these sponsors reacted positively to just refresh the hardware that we were using. So again, a lot of thank you message to all the sponsors because they are really needed and helpful for the mirror network. And I have a long blog post if you are interested for that. That means that we spend a lot of time in just maintaining the infra. Nothing really fancy happened in the CentOS infra in 2024, apart from, let's say, mailman migration. So normally a migration is like, oh, but you had already a mailing list and mailman running, so that should be in the maintain and operate, right? Yes, but no, thank you. Mailman 2 and mailman 3, they share the same prefix, but they are completely different beasts. So they are mailing lists, but not built the same way at all. So thanks a lot because it's a collaboration that happened between multiple projects, in fact. People from Apple, people from Fedora Infra, Jonathan from Alma also contributed to it. Michel did a lot of work. Thanks again, Michel, for all the work you did for the Apple packages for this. And we migrate easily, thanks for the collaboration. We migrate to Mailman 3 earlier this year, meaning that I can forget about it. It will continue to run and be maintained. Sean mentioned that yesterday. So the infra SIG, well, we still contribute a little bit to the content itself, but we just contribute to what was happening behind the scene to automate the workflow to make that possible. And again, thanks a lot to the documentation SIG for the content, but also for the artwork SIG. So Alain was mentioned by Sean yesterday. I really appreciate working with him because he automated the whole step just to have through GitLab action, GitLab CI pipeline, the container registry being the container image being pushed to the registry that are used to automatically render the website. So this was a good collaboration done in a hurry, but as Sean mentioned, yes, done and available. A small step that seems to be a small step that was a huge step for CBS for a long time. In CentOS Stream itself, we had multiple architecture, including S390. But for the special interest group, we just add x86-64, ARM64, and PPC64LE, but a lack of S390 architecture. And we had requests from a person using S390, and they were interested into using RPM packages built for S390. So thanks to the Linux One IBM project, they sponsored the one virtual machine remote that we can abuse as a builder. And so I thought that would have been difficult to add that architecture, but no, because we had already Ansible for that. So it's just building some of two packages that are specific to that. And in one day, the machine was up and running, and special interest group was able to start building for that new architecture. The decommissioning part, well, the 90s have called and they wanted their torrent tracker back. So yes, it was running Open Tracker, which was Python 2 based code, which like nobody wants to see anymore, running on CentOS Linux 7, so it had to go away. And yes, we had a discussion back and forth. Do we want to keep torrent tracker? Doesn't make sense in 2024 anymore because we used to rely on torrent tracker for major but minor release in the old days of CentOS Linux 7 and 6 and 5 and 4 and 3 and back to the root. But these days, there are at least 1 or 2 composes a week from CentOS Stream going out with a new ISO image, so it doesn't make sense. It's like really going, and it's also backed by CDNs for mirror.stream.centos.org, so by torrent tracker. And the forums were also migrated and consolidated with the Fedora one, so on the Fedora Discourse instance. So for the roadmap, first thing, let me introduce you Greg. Greg is sitting there. Just remember his name and his face, because from now on he will be responsible for everything. I will just redirect to him directly, all the tickets. But yeah, that means that we will have help, and Greg will be helping for CentOS Infra, but also Fedora Infra, because we want to synergize both infrastructure together more and more. We are relying already. We started to merge with Fedora a long time ago when we switched, and you remember that the authentication platform to FAS and IPA, the common IPA. So if you have a FAS account, you have automatically a CentOS account because it's the same thing. So we'll merge more and more in the future. We'll continue, of course, to do business as usual, but one thing that is new was announced on the Fedora blog platform last week. There are 2 DC moves coming this year from Red Hat perspective for Fedora and CentOS. So Fedora is starting to move first, but they have most of their hardware hosted in one data center. We have CentOS, we have some machine there because we are enrolled into IPA. But the community cage where majority of the CentOS infra is will also move and being consolidated in the same place. So that will impact us, and I started to work with Greg on architecturing the migration so that it will be as smooth as possible. We'll also have probably new refreshed hardware for that, and we'll probably embrace the hybrid strategy more and more, just to abuse like compute CPU cycle from the cloud and have everything else on-prem. Something that I mentioned eventually, I don't know where it will go, but at least we have a kind of plan. Do you know Secure Boot? For a long time, the special interest group were thinking about, can we get Secure Boot support for our own kernel? So not the one from the distribution, but our kernel. So Hyperscale, for example, they build a different kernel. The KModSec is rebuilding also. They're tracking the stable branch of the kernel upstream and rebuilding that in CentOS Infra for EL8 and EL9 and CentOS Stream 9 and 10. And have also kernel module, third-party kernel module that they would like to be signed for secure boot operation. So as we'll converge the Fedora Infra and CentOS Infra into one DC, it can be that will be, whether it is a plan, no ticket yet, but we'd like to start working on that and finally have something working for special interest group. The other thing that you probably read, at the Fedora level, they decided to go with Forjo, but the CentOS board want to investigate the option of going to GitLab, because that's what it's used for RHEL, and so be closer to RHEL development. It's just a discussion at this stage. We are just investigating, but that should be done, and we don't know when it can be done, because it can be done before or after the DC move. They are not related to each other, so we can move one and do the other one. So that's we can do whenever we want. We just need to have a plan, but we have already a kind of a plan. Other things that was coming from a discussion, Dennis gave a talk yesterday about OKD. If you know what OKD is, it relies on CoreOS, And it exists as a Stream CoreOS version. So there is already Fedora CoreOS, Red Hat CoreOS, which is used as an operating system for OpenShift. And there is also Stream CoreOS, which is built from CentOS Stream, the distribution, and that will serve as a basis for OKD deployment. And we work with the OKD team just to have that pushed out publicly and tested, and so that you can also, even if you don't want to use OKD, you can still deploy Stream CoreOS as an immutable operating system if you want. That's one of the things we'll work this quarter with collaboration with the CloudSig. And yes, of course, we continue to migrate the remaining Enterprise Linux 8 machine that we have, still supported, but we'd like to move to something newer, EL10. The biggest change will be, and there is a ticket for this, we'll migrate from the old IP table style firewall rule to NF table directly on the host, and so that will need some change in Ansible automation and a quick review, but that should be straightforward. And I think I'm on time, so I still have time for Q&A. If you have questions, I eventually have answers or not. Wait for the mic.
Sorry, you mentioned the ARC64 builders being faster. There's Ampere machine, and what else do you have, if I may ask? Any other hardware?
So we used to have all Mustang machine and also eMag, but we migrated to the Ultra machine from Ampere Computing. What I will probably do for the DC move is keep these machines around and also abusing a Graviton machine from AC2 as optional compute capacity. So that these will be the two that we'll be using in the future.
So can we start directly pinging Greg instead of you?
If you do that through a ticket, which is required, then I don't mind. IRC forever, thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you.